he's out there at this point.
Well, yeah, no.
I was too, but then I see people that we know, and I thought, they're not. Thank you very much.
those of you that are not familiar with PEARDECK, if you could go to the web at joinpd.com, it'll ask you, and you can go on your phone, on a tablet, on a laptop, and it will ask you to put in that code and join the class.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Kevin Mahoney. I am one of the zookeepers at the Laurel School District. If you might have seen my doppelganger, he just won an iPad that I won't tell my superintendent. These two I can trust. I'm very fortunate to work in a district that I went from an elementary teacher to an elementary principal to a high school principal, back to an elementary principal, then back to a high school principal. I don't know what's wrong with me, so don't even ask. We probably don't have enough time. I work with Nicole Pauline on the left, your right, and I work with Nicole Scott as well. Nikki Pauline is one of my English teachers, and Nikki Scott is one of my history teachers. Very fortunate that we work in a district that allows us to do a lot of things. They believe in providing us with resources to help us to engage students to do different things. This is kind of fun for me because I grew up here. I am familiar. You'll hear a little bit of an accent, and we're going to use some words along the way. So please don't take offense. At the very end, we might have a word that's a little controversial, but please don't take offense. So this is PEARDECKing in the Berg. So I'm going to turn it over to those two because you don't want to hear from me because I don't actually use it. These two know how to use it. They can provide you with resources, provide you with training, and give you some tips along the way. So I'd like to introduce Mrs. Pauline.
Okay, like you said, I am a high school English teacher. I also teach a couple college classes. And today what we're going to do is we're going to walk. Is anybody familiar with PEARDECK, first off? Okay, good. So it's not like I'm talking to a bunch of people who've never heard of it before. They do have a booth downstairs, so grab a little sticker for your laptop. We're going to walk through what an actual PEARDECK would look like. You guys would be like looking at a student's viewpoint. PEARDECK allows teachers to engage their classes and answer questions and make any presentation that they would have be interactive. And I know that, you know, teaching high school kids, how many people have a really hard time getting people to raise their hands and answer questions? Yeah, they don't like to do that, ever. I mean, I can't get you guys to raise your hands and volunteer. Using this in my classroom, I can honestly say that I have 100% of kids willing to participate. Even the kid that is maybe not always going to have the right answer, or maybe the kid that wants to put his head down. I teach, like I said, I teach history, so currently we're reading Hamlet. It's like a crowd favorite. So you can imagine what that is like. And Nikki can speak to like the same thing. She has younger kids, and younger kids are, you know, really apt to jumping on and like doing stuff like this. On the bottom, there is a shortened URL, a web address. That is a user guide to getting started with PEARDECK that we have put together. So anybody can jump on that, grab that, stick it in your drive. You can also scan the QR code, and that will give you that as well. So at the very end, I can always stick this back up. But the plan for today is we'll run through the PEARDECK. There are two different versions of PEARDECK. There is a paid version and a free version. Both you could utilize at any point in your classroom. be very successful. Our school, like he had said, is really good at getting us resources and things that we need, and did provide us with some licenses for our teachers that were using PEARDECK on a regular basis. So I do have a paid version, which I'll talk a little bit about what the difference is with those things. Okay, all the questions are meant to spark some discussion, maybe, and maybe some funny answers. And like you said, no offense being taken, we are going with a little bit of a Pittsburgh theme here with our presentation. Okay. All right. So the first thing, for those people that are not familiar with PEARDECK and what it actually is, it's a web-based application that you add on to your Google Slides. So those school districts that are like going Google and using all the G Suite and what they have to offer, if you like to use PowerPoint or you like to use Keynote, if you're like a Mac person, any of those things can then be uploaded and then utilize PEARDECK to kind of put together these interactive presentations. So instead of having these static slides with information that kids are just copying down and then you're requiring them to kind of stand up and put their hands up and answer questions and so forth, you can make those things interactive and really help out, the overall atmosphere of your whole entire classroom and get everybody kind of talking. It's an easy add-on from the Chrome store. At the very end of this, we'll walk through that process if you want to add it onto yours. Like I said, currently right now you'd be getting the free version, but you can always kind of go back and just tell your administration that you would like to probably add on that as a purchase for you for next year. Okay. And again, we talked about the free accounts. Okay. One thing that this came from the PEARDECK website. It's helping you engage every student in every seat and give formative assessments. I think that statement right there is really important as far as engaging students, getting them to really dive into what you're talking about and what you're trying to give as far as instruction, and then getting that immediate feedback for you as an educator is vital for how you move forward with your lesson, how you move forward with that unit, or what you need to kind of go back and redo. The other piece about PEARDECK, you can also make them student-paced. So I know, like for me, like today, like these 3 days, I can only imagine what's going on in my room with a sub in there. But you can always have those things, and if you use like Google Classroom or anything like that, or if you have a website where you can post things online, kids have access to the PEARDECK and kind of walk through at their own pace. So that is nice for them as well. Another thing, I know just speaking with other colleagues that have used this a lot, schools that have I don't know the correct term for it, but when you don't have to make up your school days because you have the online days, FID.
Yeah, flexible instruction.
Okay. They use the student-paced PEARDECking as well to kind of go through some of the lessons. So. All right, first question. And now this is very, very dangerous to put in a high school setting, but one of the question options is a drawing feature. So I have up there, when you think about Pittsburgh, what image comes to your mind? If you could just draw something, please. We promise to only make fun of the really, really bad ones.
And we do not discriminate.
As we go through some of the questions, obviously, you might want to put this up in your classroom. It's be really dangerous. And I'm up here searching and looking through everybody's results, just in case anybody wants to get a little squirrely and put something they should have put. Which is another feature that you have if you have an external device like an iPad or anything. You can kind of make sure that nobody's drawing anything maybe inappropriate that you wouldn't want to display that on your board. But how could you use this drawing feature in your classroom? Is it circling things? Is it looking at like a periodic table and highlighting a section? Be thinking about how you would take this exact type of question and apply it to your content, whatever grade level it is. This can go as far down as elementary and as high up as seniors. I've used it in my 2 college classes, and like I said, I got to watch the drawing feature question, but it's definitely something that you could utilize. The other feature that I have, if you notice, I've locked all your screens out, and I'm going to go through and show some of the responses of what they look like. Okay.
Nice work.
Yeah, we have some good ones. We have sports, obviously. Obviously, we're going to notice that we have the City of Bridges. There's our terrible towel. Very creative with the incline. We got some text on there. This person struggled a little bit. But we got it, the Heinz ketchup. Obviously, they're unaware of really how bad we are at baseball, but I mean, we get the part. Okay. But yeah, so you can see how you could easily share up some and start up some conversation, like our penguin there. Again, I'm not sure. Not sure.
It's Eaton Park. Smile.
Now this is just bad. This is just not good. I feel like this isn't very good. There's some that lack a little creativity, but okay. But the idea is there, and again, the nice feature is you can do it on your phone. I just decided to bring the iPad 'cause it's a little bit bigger, but you can kind of go through and monitor what the kids are actually putting on, because you can imagine how many people have one of those kids. You're like, I would never trust them to draw something and put that up on my board without watching. I have several of those boy students. Okay. One of the other questions, as we move on to the second question, is a drag the dot feature. And the drag the dot feature, when you actually utilize it in PEARDECK, is a little bit different. You can actually change the icon to be several different things. You can make it be a mathematical expression. You can have it be certain grammatical or mechanical pieces like a period or a comma or quotation marks. So this is another feature. Just quickly, if you had a bell ring or anything like that, just kind of getting the conversation started. You could just drag your dot over. Again, Pittsburgh is the best place to go for what? It's really interesting when you see a bunch of high school students try to coordinate how their dots line up with everybody in the class to make an image. If you think they can't pull that off, they can. Had that happen as well. So, we had our bumps and bruises along the way. Yeah. And again, if I lock you out and I bump up and show, you can easily have that discussion. And these are good for, things, where you want kids to have a difference of opinion. And so forth. Maybe you don't want everybody on the right spot to kind of seize where everybody's at. So concerts, museum, food and drink, and down there on the far hand right, I can't see anymore. Sporting events, yes. Okay. Ooh, date night. So, okay. So that's the drag and dot feature type question. The next question, I seem to use this one the most as far as my class in English. But that is a text response, and kids can actually put together a pretty long statement. But what is one word phrase that is a form of Pittsburghese? If include what it actually is. We do have that one Philly person in the room. We won't talk about that person. Oh, we have two Philly people. I got a yo. I'm from Philly too. We won't hold it against you, I guess.
I'd like to see what you're looking at.
Oh, okay. So when I'm walking around, I can kind of scroll through and I can see what everybody's typing as I go.
So you're seeing everything on the side
as she's coming around, she's showing you essentially the teacher version, where if you have, obviously we're running exactly what you're seeing up here on our laptop, you would actually need an additional device. So like an iPad would be perfect if you're trying to speak and you're moving around the classroom, so that you can actually scroll through and you'll see the students' answers in real time, each on their own individual screen. And the good thing about that is, as when you're typing, or maybe particularly with the drawing one, they don't pop up right away. They will not make it up on the screen unless you okay that one to be up on the screen. So I actually have most of the same grade level that Nikki Pauline has, but then I also have a section of 8th graders for history. And this works, I think, particularly well with them in terms of bell ringers, where they would type an answer all day long, but then if I ask them to share their answer is when I get shut down. And it's a small class, there's only 12 of them, and that might be why they're a little bit intimidated to share out with their opinion or their answers. So the answer that I put up on the screen, when I do put some up on the screen, they don't necessarily know whose that is. So I feel like we get a lot more comfortable and we're more willing to participate in discussions when we know that whatever we do answer, when it's selected to be up there, that it is anonymous. Unless they say like, oh, that's mine, when somebody else agrees with them, which is sometimes what they'll start doing.
Yeah, so I mean, I could go through and I could have starred. I mean, there was a bunch of yins, obviously. So I could have went and starred the ones that I want. So maybe I only want to show 3 answers up on the board. In this case, I just kind of left them all up. But I can go through and click each one individually too, and put up and show and talk about it. The nice thing about this is, you notice that there's no student names. So you know, the kids that don't necessarily or not sure about their answer, they're still going to participate because they know that they're not going to get called out. You on your teacher dashboard know exactly who said it, so they can't hide it or anything like that. And again, when you build rapport with kids, you know, they're going to type things. They're going to say like, I always get like, hey Paul, what's up? Or your fly's down or something. I mean, something to get a rise out of me. But you can I just completely delete it, and I don't even make a comment, but they're like waiting for it to show up on your screen, like you're stupid enough to put something up there that's going to get you in trouble. And then they're like, gibbering and stuff like that, and you're like, what? And they're like, nothing. So, you know, did you have a question?
Yes, I want to know, do you receive at the very end like a transcript of all the different things that you said?
At the very end, you can save each session as like a named file, and you can actually export all the answers to a Google Sheet, or you could just print them off, or just save them indefinitely in your account, so you could pull them up and actually grade them if you wanted to grade them or anything like that. Yeah, good question. All right, another really good feature is the multiple choice option. I have taken a lot of, I teach a trigger course, so I teach a Keystone class, and so I do a lot of my Keystone remediation and prep work using PEARDECK. One, because I can save it and access it later and grade it later, but then I can also show the answers up on the board live with the multiple choice feature for that test. And you can choose a number of answers. You can go down to 4, you can have true and false, you can have anything like that if you think of any kind of way to have a multiple choice answer. And this one deals with the official Pittsburgh Permane sandwich, so those of you who are familiar.
Way to do multiple, like I can pick
You
three.
cannot choose multiple, so there's only one correct answer. In this case, like I know that there, are a couple choices that you could go from, but I wanted to show how the different lines kind of show up. And again, I can kind of see and watch on my version up on here, and the bars go back and forth and so forth like that. So I can see how many people clicked on, D, for example, and then it'll give me an actual list of names. So when I'm like, oh, who chose B, and then nobody raises their hand, I can just call on them individually without even asking, really. People are always asking, like, what will you do if a student walks in late? They took a chemistry test and it ran over, or they came into school late. Up in the right-hand corner, you'll notice that the code, never goes away off the screen. So that joinpd.com is just always going to be there. So even if you got locked out, something happened, a kid dropped the device and their Chromebook turned off or something like that, they can always open it back up and get right back into the same Pear Deck without, having to restart or go back and do anything new. Their answers are still saved. So this is what you would see on a response. And then you could kind of go through and talk about like the correct answer and so forth. Obviously, I would say French fries as well, but maybe some people differ and pick the coleslaw. All right, the next type of question is a go out to the web question. And we were actually talking about this one yesterday. I have never actually used this one in my class, but it has you put a question up on the screen, and there's nothing that you could potentially type in or add to this actual Pear Deck, but it limits the student from going to just any website out there imaginable, and it has them take them to a specific one that you have directed them to find an answer, or to begin a discussion, or find a fact, and so forth. So for this type of question, I was kind of imagining we were sitting there and doing it. If you're looking at or researching Pittsburgh for a few minutes, what's one event or fact that seems interesting to you guys? And you might want to think, pair, share, and then you could share out with a group. It just might be a good way to get the conversation started. The other thing is, if you have younger students, sometimes giving them the freedom of looking just anywhere in Google, I mean, who knows what you get, and so forth. So, and then like what links aren't working because your web stuff is blocked at your school and is pretty strict or whatever. So it's just kind of one way. But like I said, Nikki, have you ever used this one?
I have not used this one.
Yeah, I have not used this one either. But that's how I'd imagine that it would kind of work if you want to just kind of give them one spot to kind of go to get information. So if you were looking, maybe turn to your neighbor, something on the Pittsburgh website that pops up that you find interesting, kind of turn, maybe tell the person sitting next to you, like, where would you like to go? What looks fun, or what seems interesting in the city? Okay, so did anybody get any ideas of how they would use that web feature? Anybody want to share one?
I'm a math teacher. I would send the kids to Desmos for their graphing calculator.
Oh, yeah. To solve something. I'm not saying that eliminate paper and pencil. I like paper pencil, so I wouldn't eliminate that. What do you have?
I'm a science teacher, so I would send them to a specific article and say, according to the research on this, what is one benefit of, have them read the article?
Yeah. It would take them maybe, that would eliminate the time spent just finding something to find a viewpoint. It would kind of quicken up the class for something that's, I don't want to say time wasted, like research is not time wasted, but essentially like just getting the information is what you need. Okay, yeah, so, all good ideas. It just, for me right now, I don't think it works for my class. The last question, speaking of, if you teach math, this is a good one. How many World Series or Stanley Cup or Super Bowl championships does the city of Pittsburgh proudly showcase? And this is the type of question that's going to always have a number result. So how many do you think?
Is that a sum total?
It's a total, yes.
Do the students have to enter it all, or is it just automatic?
You have to enter a number digit.
No, do they have to hit enter, or
It's just automatic.
it's automatic?
Yep, it's jumping all over the place for me. Okay. So then when you have your screen there, it's going to give you this number breakdown on this slide. And it's going to give you how many things. We have 6. We have way more than that, guys. Come on. Yes. I mean, that's the Steelers alone. Okay. But again, math class, this is also one that I've never used in my class. You know, how many times does Hamlet die? I don't know. But this is definitely something you'd want to use probably in math class or something, or in science class.
What would you like to give them the answer? They're
Oh,
very curious.
16. We have 16. Sorry. Yeah, 6 on the Super Bowl side, 6 cups, and 6 World Series. Again, baseball, we don't, or 5, I'm sorry. English teacher, come on, English teacher. Yeah, 5, and 6. Okay, Ms. Mahoney?
All right, since I have maybe a little bit of an accent, we are downtown, not on the south side, but close to the north side. Do any of you Nebby Jagoffs have any questions about PEARDECK that these 2 young ladies can answer? What we wanted to try to do is, Nikki's going to try to show you the teacher version backwards, because I know that's what you would see. We were trying to give you what the students see so you can kind of go through and then see the results on the back side. What I found when I go in to evaluate, I see the engagement. Every one of you, I know we're adults and sometimes we don't like to participate. You were all ready to go. You were boom, boom, boom. Think, pair, share. I know everybody was a little hesitant, but you hear blah, 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 blah. And then it just starts that conversation starter. A lot of the good ones were the bell ringers, because you grab those kids' attention and then they're like, oh, she's all right. She's doing this. And obviously with technology and social media, I think those kids don't know how to speak to each other. So this is their only form of communication that they're able to provide. So what I see in our classrooms, the kids become more comfortable as more teachers do it, and it's more natural. They do it without thinking. That's what we want, because then they're engaged, they're searching, they're researching, whether it's the math, the science, whatever subject area, they're able to dig in, and you're able to control where they go, because you can either control the answers, you can control the website, you can control the article, whatever it may be. The drawing one, I may have been the inappropriate one yesterday as we were doing it. I might have been drawing bad pictures, but you'll have that. And that's good too, because it brings some laughter into the classroom, brings a little levity, because you want to enjoy that. You want to build that culture, just like, you know, what we heard this morning. You want that interaction for them to feel comfortable, be able to have that relationship where they're enjoying being in your class, reaching out. Then that gives them the confidence to build, to be able to speak, answer, and then develop from there. So I'll let Nikki tell you about this side.
Really quickly too, before she gets into the teacher view, is something else that usually will occur while they're doing this, unless I tell them not to. As they start typing their answer or drawing their answers, they actually will start talking to each other. They'll turn, they'll discuss, they want actually to see what their neighbor is drawing. They're gonna say, okay, mine's gonna look better than yours, or how long is your answer? I have to make sure my answer is that long. I've had 8th graders who just notoriously, even if I ask them a short answer type of question or a critical thinking type question, will give me 1 or 2 sentences max, and they're probably not punctuated or capitalized or anything else. And when I give them a question like this, where they can just type in the box, knowing full well that if it's a good answer, that, you know, they can see it, and an answer that they're typing while someone beside them is, what did you say? What was your opinion on that? And I'll get 2 or 3 paragraphs from a bell ringer where I used to get maybe 1 or 2 words from them as they're coming in the door. Specifically with the younger, because I also teach the juniors and seniors, and I've done PEARDECKs with them, and they're awesome. But I think specifically with the younger students that I have, I've noticed probably the largest engagement when I do use PEARDECK, and I don't use it all the time because I feel like I don't want to over-saturate them with it. Then maybe it'll lose a little bit of its fun and its charm. But I find that when we do these types of things, I mean, I've had kids ask me for like additional time. They'll be like, please don't lock the screen, I'm not done drawing. I'm not done yet. And I can very easily walk around and look at their screens while they're drawing. I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll take another minute or 2. So they're actively engaged in all these types of questions, which I think is awesome, particularly for that age group.
So this is the dashboard view. So the problem becomes, and the only thing that I would say that you kind of had to like work and figure out, the iPad is my personal iPad from home, and I just bring it to school if I know I'm going to use PEARDECK. But I can use my phone. I do have a smartphone as well. I can't obviously have the dashboard up and have the PEARDECK working up. Okay, it would be kind of counterproductive at that point. But this is what you would see as the teacher, and there's a lot of ways to view it. I can stack, this is the first question, I can stack everyone's drawing on top of each other. Like, why would I want to do that? Okay. I can have a little thumbnail version, or I can go like list view. You can kind of play with those things. And then, again, you can go through and literally star the ones that you want to show and only show the ones that have been starred. Or I can eliminate anybody's choice by clicking on the little 3 snowmans here and hide somebody's response. And I get the inappropriate stuff. I usually don't make any comments, and they go away as soon as they're never seen on the screen. When they're never seen, they're not going to put them up there because, why do that? Okay. I also controlled the entire presentation from my iPad. So those of us that are used to having to stand at our board and like click on our board or click on their computer and never move from your desk, it gives you the ability to walk around. And I'm not Bluetoothed anything in here. I'm just hooked up to the same exact website. But again, I can stack them. I can, look individually if I want to know what kid actually answered what. For the drag the dot one, it just obviously makes sense to stack. And I can go through for every single one of these and figure out, what people have and just watch them as they give their responses. Which I think is really nice because it alleviates the fear of I've given something to somebody, I don't know what's going to pop up on the screen.
So this is the dashboard, and the other view that you were looking at was
my presentation view.
Okay, and are you logged into this exact same web on both?
I am logged into the same web address and code for each one. It'll ask you, do you want to open a projector view?
Under your ID.
Under my school ID.
Okay.
Yep. It's working under my school ID.
Does this store also in your drive?
So when you, and that's what we were going to give us some time to kind of do that. When you go to make your own PEARDECK and you want to present, it kind of looks like this. Like if I was coming into a class for the first time, I would go to PEARDECK.com to start my thing. It's going to give you that generic. I'm going to log in obviously as a teacher. And then it's linked directly to my drive, and this is my school account. So if I scroll down here, and I'm looking for more sessions, it's going to pull up any presentation that I've ever made that is in my drive, that is a Google slide, will show up in my PEARDECK, even if I don't have any questions being interactive. So I do have some PowerPoint presentations that are up there, like for example, yesterday I went to this one about innovative professional development. Since it's a slideshow presentation, it's now in my drive because I took it from the speaker yesterday. It just automatically puts it up like, hey, would you like this to be a PEARDECK? And obviously I don't, but it's there as my option. And then I can click on it and it'll ask me, do I want to start presenting? And this is where you have the difference of, if I chose here, that's my classroom view, where it would present and the kids would see the questions and so forth. If I choose the one to the right, that's my teacher dashboard view.
Does it do vice versa though?
What do you mean?
Like when you go to your drive without going to PEARDECK.com
Yep.
and see all of your.
Yep. So under my, here's my actual drive with my presentation, right? That looks normal. When you go to add-ons and you've actually downloaded PEARDECK, okay, and I click on open PEARDECK add-on, there'll be a button that says present lesson.
Okay, but the actual presentation with all those slides is in your drive.
Yep, it is in my drive. I can change it anytime, and it changes it for PEARDECK.
So you would lose the paid features if you only have that, correct?
No, the features that you don't get if you do not have a paid account is you lose some of the buttons. Like you cannot draw, and you cannot do the draggable.
Okay.
They're not an option if you have only the free account. You could do the other ones though.
Right.
Does it work the same in Microsoft? Like, what does it look like as
You mean for
PEARDECK?
For PEARDECK, you have to upload your PowerPoint presentation and make it a Google slide. It's a Google add-on. Yeah. So if you have a PowerPoint presentation in Microsoft If you upload that PowerPoint presentation into a Google Drive, it'll convert it over for you, and then you would easily be able to use it. It'll keep all your same fonts and backgrounds and all that kind of stuff.
So if you want to run this in a class, you open it on your computer and hit present lesson here,
Yep, I can do that.
and then you open up the other one on your iPad.
And I can do this. I go
through
through the same process. I would go to the website.
So you have it open in 2 places.
I would have to open it 2 places
Right.
if
Okay.
I want to watch what the kids are doing.
Watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
I wanna
If
do
I
what
want to
you're doing.
watch and I want to control it from like my iPad, I want to be mobile.
Right.
If I mean, I'm not nervous that you guys would put something up here. He's not in the audience, and I said you were not allowed to have a device. But if I was worried about something like that, like I really could have ran it without watching what you guys were putting.
Right.
But just to show how you do have some access and some mobility, I think is nice as a teacher.
I just want to be clear, if you want to do it that way, you have to open up in 2 places.
You do have to open up in 2 places,
Oh.
yes.
Could you dual screen it where you have like, you know how you can extend your screen or like
Mhm.
make it a second screen? Where you would open it up and like drag it to the smart board and project it on there with that one version, and then open up another tab on your actual computer.
Mhm.
Would it work that way as well?
Yep, it would work that way as well. Yeah, it is one of those things where like you get nervous because you plan your whole lesson around like this big thing, and you're just like, let me try this out. So I would say the first time I ever did it, just try it out like with a friend. So we sat last night after one of the sessions was over, before we went out to dinner and stuff, and we just ran through the whole thing. Nikki signed on her phone. I think Kevin might have had a Chromebook or something, and I had it and was just kind of going through just to make sure that everything kind of worked, and it went fine. It's just that initial fear of going in knowing that your whole lesson is this and up on the screen. But again, if you only have one slide that's interactive, then you just have one. Start with one. Or start with a text one. You don't have to throw every single type of question on there. I've had ones where it's just literally one slide is interactive and the rest is just regular presentation like the kids are used to. It's just how much do you want them to interact with it and versus how much do you want them sitting at their seat doing something at their seat.
I mean, I've done presentations before where I have only one slide that's active in PEARDECK, and it might be something that's at the end of the presentation where I don't feel it necessary to be logged in to police answers. So I might ask, I teach junior and senior psychology. So we cover a topic, and then maybe the only slide on there that is interactive is, and maybe in this case for the payable version, a draggable, where I ask them like, how well on a scale of 1 to 10 do you understand what we just talked about? Knowing full well that there's not too much that can go wrong with that. They're just going to place the little heart or the dot, whatever, on a 0 somewhere to 10. And then I can log in later and actually look and say, okay, well, they got that, we're good, or maybe they don't have that, maybe I'll have to restart with it again tomorrow. And I've also done it with a free version one, which is the text box, where I didn't necessarily have to be logged in right then, because I knew right then I was not going to pull up their answers or share their answers right at that moment. Maybe at the end of the period, I would log in, look at their answers, and then maybe as a discussion, that's how we start the next class period with, here's how some of you answered that question yesterday, and show them the answers then. So there are some times where if you don't necessarily want to be logged into the teacher view, it's not something that you would have to do. If you want to do kind of the same way that we did today, it's very, very simple, and you can do it on your phone if you really wanted to. Log into the teacher dashboard and have, as you're kind of circulating the room, have their answers right there, like in your pocket.
The one thing that if you're kind of concerned about building your own, like I've never used their templates, but they do have template questions already kind of made. When you open it up, it's under template library. If you click on these, it gives you like beginning of the lesson. These are types of questions that you could use during the lesson, end of the lesson, critical thinking, socio or emotional learning, stuff like that. If you click on those, it'll give you like pre-made stuff. Now again, I teach 12th graders at some point. Like I don't know how about this like girl over here on the right, what I do in my 12th grade classroom.
Great day.
Yeah, but you have like your true and false are kind of already set up, so you have some generic templates that you can kind of work with. I just have never used those. If you want to know what it truly looks like, if you open up Google Slides, we are going to walk you through to show you what it does look like. You will have to add that add-on, and it is free, you would have to upgrade yourself to get a paid version. But I'll show you what it looks like to actually add a question. You build your presentation just like you would if you're building any kind of PowerPoint presentation. Either you build it in Microsoft PowerPoint and then upload it later to your Google account, or you can just build it straight from slides, either one. But over here on the add-on side, if you do have slides up, you'll notice that Get Add-ons is down here. If you go down here and you just search, oh look, there it is. It's going to come right up. It's one of those ones, the Chrome store is going to kind of modify all these add-ons to kind of work with Google Slides. But if you type in PEARDECK, it's going to come right up and you can choose it and then just start using it. In order to get it to turn on, you do have to turn it on every single time you want to use it. So like I said, there's not always a case where I'm making my PowerPoint presentation necessarily interactive, so I don't always have it up there. But when you turn it on, you're going to always see this right-hand side column. That's like your main area. And then the part that I use the most is those 6 dots, those 6 different types of questions that you can make for any presentation. So if I were to go through and let's say I want to add a question, okay? What kind of question we want to add? I don't care. Y'all
I have one.
What?
Why don't we do ours?
Oh, okay. Well, like multiple choice, if I click on multiple choice, it'll have me put my answers in there, whatever they are. Okay, I click update my slide, and I just need to ask my question. And then that slide is essentially done. I mean, I could put something else on there, but the way it's going to kind of show up is, if I were to present this lesson, it'll look just like the questions that you guys gave. Okay?
Yeah.
Can you show us how to take a regular Google slide thing, and is it easy to just download it into PEARDECK? Or what does that look like?
It's, if you already have them in slides, it's automatic.
It's automatic. It does it automatic.
It's automatic. Yep. So as soon as you log yourself in, the first time you get into PEARDECK, it's going to ask you for some information like what's your username, what's this, what's your password, that kind of stuff. But as soon as you use your same account, so if you're using this only for school, you know, every single Google slide presentation or Microsoft PowerPoint presentation, it just automatically uploads it for me.
Hit the add-on and open it up.
Yep, as soon as I go to PEARDECK.com, it'll ask me which one I want to choose from, and I choose whichever one that I need. Yep. And then it stays there, so once I've created it with the interactive questions, they stay. So just like any other PowerPoint, that would be saved in your... Does anybody else have any questions as far as putting one together? Are we trying it? What are we doing?
Can you go back to that screen that has that short URL on the class?
Sure. This one?
I work with younger kids, and we're one-to-one iPads. Is there an app for PEARDECK, or do they need to go through an internet browser?
It is not an app. The add-on for you is just so you can make the presentation interactive. It is completely web-based. So as long as you have an internet connection, it can work. So that's the other nice thing, because you don't have to spend time downloading or getting permission for 100 student devices to have that application. It's completely web-based. Do you want to do the question?
Yeah.
I closed it, so reset that. All right, so we do have a couple T-shirts up for winning, and we do have a question. And I did have it on the Pear Deck, but then I closed it accidentally. I'm sorry. Technology flub. So the T-shirts that are up for grab, obviously, are Pittsburgh T-shirts. So I know the Philly people are like right up on it, but it's got our Pittsburghese stuff. We're gonna have 2 winners for those of you who want to guess the closest number for the total amount of educational years we have in the profession.
The 3 of us.
The 3 of us combined. Yep. He's really old. I just want to preface. 96. Holy God! That kid fails for the year. What'd you say? 50. And you said 46? 56?
51.
Who said 52?
52? 52?
Give him one. Or you're
All right.
not from Philly, are you? Alright, give him one.
Alright, come on up for your T-shirt.
We'll take one more guess.
55.
Close.
51.
54.
Close.
53.
53. You're not from Philly
I'm a
either.
Philly fan.
Alright,
so
sorry.
my kid's a Steelers fan. I'll give it to my kids.
Alright.
We're a house divided. Just haven't been.
But if anybody wants to try to pull one up or try to add a slide or anything like that, you can come up or stay. I think we're in here for another 13 minutes or so. We're happy to stay and answer any questions. If not, thanks everybody for coming out and sitting and partaking and pear decking with us. Hopefully you go back and you try it with your kids and nobody draws anything inappropriate. Or if they do, kudos to them.
Where's the internet on here, like from iPad? Like, can I make the Google slides from the iPad with it? I have it on my architecture.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you off? Are you working online?
It is. I do have a question for you. So a lot of times I do things such as this, where I put pictures and I have them drag it to like the time zone or whatever it may be.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to know, is there a way to do that in it? So I have here an example, where we compile with a symbol. Right. Took out the entire.
You're trying to mask like the city's name with the.
Absolutely right. So like, I'm trying to match, like take pictures. Is there a way to have them drag pictures for me? Like, is there a way to insert pictures onto
think
the
that there
add-on?
is. You could make a slide, you would have to have the paid version, and you could use the draggable.
Right. Yep. So we
But
have.
you might
we
have
have
to do it
premium.
like
You might have to do a
make it one
slide, each
per
slide
picture.
for a city.
As in, which one of these is this, and then they could drag.
So if you wanted to
drag
do
it
like
to it.
3 bullet points about this one specifically, and then pull it out, where's it located, they could drop it on. But you might have to do like 10 slides if you're doing 10 cities.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you could do all in one. 'Cause we only had one heart to drag
Yeah,
because
yeah.
every
Right,
kid
I
would
don't
have
think it
one
lets you
answer.
upload your own
Yeah,
pictures.
normal.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because they automatically.
Sure. So